That is tomato ketchup. It's knockout.
Hello, Johnny here, back once again like a renegade master with part 2 of local cable television. It's where we're having a look at some of the local channels that came with your cable TV network. And we're going to continue now with Birmingham Cable.
Hello and welcome to Birmingham Cable, your cable television station for Birmingham and Solihull.
Birmingham Cable opened up in 1989 with 29 channels and 13 radio channels. It would also have a local TV service with news and information in conjunction with Birmingham Post and Mail. Initially it was a joint venture between US West and Comcast, not that Comcast, it was a different one, and General Cable. Over the years, Comcast and General Cable would get purchased by US West after it merged with TCI, meaning it was owned by TeleWest. The most I could find out about their local service was from Birmingham Cable Radio.
Well, that's the Bronski beat there. That's the small town boy and princess. Before that, what a song called Say I Am Your Number One with Birmingham Cable Radio. Monday the 28th of August we're still looking at, and we're looking at Bravo Channel 15 here on your Birmingham Cable Vision lineup. Some of the films you can watch on Bravo, it's 12 o'clock in fact, when Bravo comes on the air. They've got a film called Devil Girl from Mars. It's one of these B movies, which is always a lot of fun to watch. From 1954, a small Scottish inn is visited by a sexy, leather-clad female Martian. She has come to Earth to kidnap healthy males for breeding purposes, starring Hugh McDermott and Hazel Court in that.
In regards to Birmingham Cable, well, unfortunately, that's as far as this information train stops, because I can't find anything else, can't find any footage of any local stuff, but I did find some of these adverts. Every so often during adverts on other channels like UK Gold and TCC, they sometimes have some Birmingham Cable adverts in.
Going back to school and you want to look really, really cool? Chill out and get down to first-class school uniforms. A brownie or a scout, a guide or a cub. Get completely woggled, badged and dibbed, ready for action. Back to school again with first-class school uniforms. One shop, one stop. Everything from 3 to 16 years for loads of local schools. Your school uniform is here now. Ring 433 5563. Back to school with first-class school uniforms, Sturchley.
There were a number of companies in and around London and the southeast, which I'll mention in a bit, but Windsor Cable was outright owned by a company called the Cable Corporation. And that was a bunch of other companies, but basically they came together to create that one. And it was for cable services across Windsor, Slough, Maidenhead, Ashford, Staines, Stanwell and Heathrow Airport. In this clip you can see the channel playing its Cablevision, and in the background it's got Radio 210 from Reading, and this recording is from just after HVC finished for the night. Their local cable channel was called WMTV, standing for Windsor and Middlesex TV, and they had a show called Scene on 7. They would also let you use their kit to make stuff too, but they wanted you to be careful by showing you how much each bit costs.
Now, Harold the Gerbil and his friend, how much do you reckon these are worth? Again, we polled 100 WMTV people and asked them how much these microphones go for each. They reckoned about 30 quid each. Wrong! These microphones actually go for £1,000 each.
So a couple of notable mentions that I thought were interesting. In the northwest of the country, there were 2 cable companies that would end up becoming part of the same company with a few other franchises. They started out as Bolton Cablevision and East Lancashire Cablevision, as well as having a cluster of franchises around Greater Manchester. They'd have Stoke-on-Trent, Derby, Darlington, Teesside, Bournemouth, Bromley, Surrey, Sussex and Solent. Considering the name I'm about to say was fairly well known in those areas, there's actually almost nothing online footage-wise, and that company was Nynex. Nynex was actually an American company, and it stood for New York, New England, with the X apparently representing future. But it would have made sense if it actually meant exchanges. Anyway, despite the name Nynex, it was rather unique. Now, the only place that I can actually see this whole thing existed is actually on the manhole covers on the pavements, because where I live in Manchester, it's got Nynex all over them instead of BT. I can barely find anything online other than a couple of pictures. The Manchester Arena even used to be called the Nynex Arena, but any footage? Not a froggy. Their local channel was called Cable 7, but I could only find a really small amount.
This brings to a close community programming on Cable 7. The programmes you have been watching are made by local people for local people. Training and assistance provided free by the programming staff at East Lancashire Cablevision means access to local television for anyone who has a programme idea or expresses an interest in covering an event. And remember, you don't have to be an expert to get involved. The programmes seen on Cable 7 are produced by volunteers working in the studio and on location, making community programmes about East Lancashire. Sally Moon, our programme manager, welcomes your ideas for programmes and would like to know about any forthcoming events or hear any comments you may have. At Cable 7, we encourage your participation, so why not call us on 0254 680094. We hope you enjoyed today's programmes on your community channel Cable 7, and don't forget our teletext service including your sales and swaps, what's-ons, announcements and general information.
It morphed into the Cable and Wireless Group and then became NTL in 1999. British Cable TV in Guildford, later renamed Maxwell Cable TV, yes, that Maxwell, had a couple of cable franchises, and this is where things start to get a little bit foggy, because even the Cable Authority thing wasn't as detailed on this, so I'm trusting what was on TV forums and websites through the Wayback Machine. Now, the Maxwell Cable TV Group owned the former Cablevision franchises in 1984. These included Oxford, Middlesbrough, Hull. There was 30 in total. And I know Oxford Cable had Channel 10 thanks to Paul Lancaster's videos. In 1988, Maxwell wanted to sell his cable network, which at the time was one of the UK's biggest, and it was British compared to the others, which were Canadian or American owned. He also had 50% of MTV Europe, 25% of Clyde Cablevision, and 30% of the Premiere Film Channel, along with shares in the TF1 group in France. In a report from the 1988 Financial Times, he was looking for a buyer for the cable network. After he died, they changed the name because the Maxwell name was mud, and they got bought by CableTel and ComTel, moving on, becoming NTL, which is maybe what happened to Oxford. But I've learned doing these videos that sometimes you kind of just have to do some detective work and some logical thinking when the information isn't there. Feel free to add anything in the comments that I might have gotten wrong. Next is Jones Cable in Leeds, and that started in 1994 and it became part of Bell Cable Media in 1995, and Cable and Wireless snapped it up in 1996. They kept hold of it until sneaky little NTL snaffled it up, and I don't think they had a local cable channel connected to it. Again, feel free to add that in the comments if I'm wrong.
Behind Jones Cable are two world-class telecommunication companies, Jones Intercable Group and Northern Telecom, companies with the resources and expertise that can deliver the reliability you're looking for.
Jones Cable brings you nothing less than the best choice in family entertainment, plus the benefits of an alternative telephone system with quality, convenience and reliability that can cost you less.
Peterborough and Norwich Cablevision served Peterborough and Norwich, strangely enough, and they launched in 1990 and promised two local TV services, one being a community channel and the other one being an education service. I can't find anything about those. Group was part owned by Pacific Telesis, which also owned Bolton Cablevision fully. That covered Bolton, Worsley, Salford, Atherton and Wigan. Bolton would become part of Nynex and then later would become part of Cable and Wireless and finally NTL. Peterborough and Norwich went via Bell Cable Media, and then Cable and Wireless, and I couldn't find a local channel for those either. United Artists started in 1990 with 2 franchises, one in Bristol and the other in South London. Videotron, and there's not actually a lot about them, but they also served parts of London as well as Avon, so that's around Bristol and that area. Now, they were actually a Canadian cable company, and for some reason the only proper footage I've got of those is this slide from Nickelodeon when it switched over to TV Asia, and this video of people working for Videotron back in 1996, but they were just having a nice time and dancing everywhere. London was actually quite interesting because there were a few companies covering that. Westminster Cable actually had Laserdisc used for an early version of on-demand TV. I can't find a local channel for it, but I did see some footage about various other things. I briefly mentioned this in episode 1, and they were really pioneering in technology. Laserdisc was the big thing in the day, as well as video jukeboxes. Considering that on-demand TV wasn't actually widely available until the BBC iPlayer kicked off in around 2011, and actually that had been around since 2007, but it wasn't necessarily seen as a big thing back then. But yeah, basically Westminster Cable had a service where you could play a video disc remotely with it being delivered through cable, and the on-demand service was developed by BT, but it was purchased by Westminster Cable, which BT owned 45% of. They also had a really early version of something like Just Eat, where you could order a takeaway through your cable box. It's basically pressed out but on your TV. This also opened up the possibility of narrowcasting in certain places, which, if you don't know what that is, broadcasting is to many people and narrowcasting is to a specific person or set of people. The idea, as Einstein A Go-Go is explaining here, is to have targeted advertising.
It will allow us as an agency to reach a much more select audience with the right kind of message more precisely. It's, a very local type of medium. This also can even benefit the consumer. You can transmit a cat food commercial on a channel that's really beamed at pet owners, so people who are not really interested in pets don't see a cat food commercial. So there's a bit of an advantage, I think, for the consumer there.
Also, for some reason, they all seem to be really interested in showcasing the system by showing bird videos. Why birds? Why bird? Why bird? Why? Peterborough and Norwich Cablevision, as well as Jones Cablevision, formed part of Bell Cable Media. Here's a bit of a tape that they delivered to people's houses to get them to buy cable.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Big
Cable Show!
My name's Carol Smiley.
And I'm Mark Webster, and today we've got a very good show for you indeed. Dan, the cable expert, will be in the studio. All right there, Dan?
Telewest looked like this before it merged with Flextech, and that's a whole other long story that I'm currently writing. This is Cable Tel's promo video from before it became NTL.
Cable Tel, good morning. How may I help you? That's right, madam. No aerials, no squarials, no dishes, and no problems.
Elsewhere in the north, you had Yorkshire Cable. Here's the promo for Yorkshire Cable.
There's a revolution going on in Yorkshire, a revolution in the way that we communicate, from the way we use our telephone to the way we receive television pictures, and it's all because of cable, like this.
And if you haven't figured it already, Nick Ross did a lot of these cable promotions. In fact, it wasn't just cable, he also did BSB satellite as well.
Cable is the future. Cable is the future. Jones Cable is the future. And it's happening right now. You are about to see a choice for the future, the next generation of broadcasting technology, and you're going to see it demonstrated for the first time ever.
There was quite a bit I didn't mention in this video. Someone left a comment mentioning about Bradford Cable, but I couldn't find anything about that. And the main one that I could find and didn't do a dedicated segment about in this video is the most obvious one, Swindon Cable. And I've got a plan for that. Swindon Cable is going to be featured later in the future, and I've mentioned it quite a fair few times today, so I don't think I need to mention it any more than that. I've also decided that after a year the channel needs a bit of a refresh, so I'm going to take some time out to tie up some loose ends, make a new starting theme, and get some headway with some future videos and decide which ones need some extra attention. So I'll be taking a month off to do that. I'll return with part 3, and then series 2 is going to start. If you're with me on Patreon or if you're a channel member, I'm going to give you some new perks. So I'm not decided how early yet, but you guys are going to get the videos a little bit earlier. Keep an ear out for that on the community notices. Thanks very much to Chris Elliott, Samuel Desmond, Tracker John, Manuel Mobius, Mark Jackson, Kieran Dyke, Joseph Adams, Stephen Bride and Hooter Noodles. The executive producer is Viatom.
Viatom.
I've been Johnny Robinson, and I'll still be Johnny Robinson after this video is finished. Thank you, bye.